So we're here today with Tom Bowens, President and CEO of IG Global and IG Asia, and Rob Ingram with IG Global as our Business Development and Corporate Communications, and myself, Stephanie Ashton, Vice President of Business Development. And we're here to have a little quick chat with our President, Tom Bowens. And to that, Tom, would you mind introducing yourself? Tell us a little bit about what your education and background is and why you got into geology.
Sure. Again, my name's Tom Bowens, President, CEO of IG Global Group and President of IG Asia. My educational background, degrees in economics, geological engineering, bachelor's, and a geology master's, the latter two from Colorado School of Mines. My career started with a major, which was the only time I ever worked for a major. Lucky for me, knock on wood. Cypress AMAX back in the early 90s. Worked there until Cypress AMAX sold their company out, and then went to work first for Lucas Lundin, and then Robert Friedland. And then later, Lucas brought me back as a VP exploration for Fortress Minerals. My career was in the early days in the US, but since that time, I've worked my entire career in Asia, Central Asia, mostly, Mongolia, Far East Russia, Kazakhstan, spent some time in Laos, Mexico, but primarily in Central Asia. Does that answer your question?
What made you want to be a geologist, Tom? And why do you like it?
Oh.
What drives you every day?
I always loved the mountains. That isn't what drives me every day. That's what made me become a geologist. I wanted to live and work in the mountains. I certainly got a lot of that in the early days of my career. I pretty much lived 100% of my time in the mountains. What keeps me going every day is, I got into geology not even knowing anything about mineral exploration. Once I got turned on to that, though, it became very satisfying and very exciting. There's nothing more exciting than discovering an ore body and creating the kind of economic value that goes along with that. We discovered Svetloy and then Malmish, brought Durman up to a mineable ore body, and then of course Tentic with the discovery of the T2 vein at Trixie. But when you make those big discoveries, especially in Malmish, you created, there they say it'll be 20,000 jobs for about 60 plus years when you include the multiplication factor of employment. Something like that is really exciting and fulfilling as a geologist and a human being. I mean, it's great to create jobs, revenues, families can raise their kids and have a good life, and it's something that you had a big part in. So that's what keeps me going now.
Well, it's exciting that you've been able to do that, and people have, all the stakeholders have had returns, and it's been such a positive experience. What projects right now are you excited about in the IG Asia portfolio? And what do you think the next big value creation is going to be for investors?
Very excited about a number of our assets in IG Asia. There's TN5. We're in both Kazakhstan and Mongolia. We only currently have one project in Mongolia. It's my white whale from when I used to work for Robert Friedland. It's very close to Harmakhtai and the Harmakhtai belt. It's a copper gold porphyry system. In all of the years, and I guess you add them all up, maybe 7 years I spent in the Gobi Desert, it was the best I ever saw coming up on it. Just a raw prospect, beautiful stockwork, texture veining, stockworks where you have multiple veins cross-cutting at various angles with centerline, I don't want to get technical, but with copper oxides all over, beautiful mineralization associated with those veins. For a variety of reasons, they never got back to it. and did any work on it. So I kept an eye on it, and finally they dropped it after like 6 years of holding about a third of Mongolia in their portfolio. That's Ivanhoe. And then the government had a moratorium on licensing. So just a year and a half ago, it finally came open for staking. Nobody knew about it. So we went out and staked that beautiful asset. So far, we've done mags and some follow-up sampling. Oddly enough, that one used to be a topographic low, but over those 21 years, am I that old? Over 21 years, it actually became a topographic high because it's covered with sand, which may be why Ivanhoe never got back to it. But we did some recon sampling, hit the same kind of numbers that I had hit 20 years ago, that being samples over 5% copper, over a gram, up to 30 grams gold.
Wow.
And again, those beautiful textures. It's really an exciting project. Right now, we're running IP on it. And we did some 3D mag. So we'll complete our geophysics and then go in there and drill that. And I'm very excited about TN5.
Well, I
I
know
think
that Rich,
it could be another Malmage, in my
that's
view.
that's so exciting. I'm very excited about it vicariously and directly because you know, I'm an investor too, right? But I know that Rich Lavelle, our director of IG Asia, who's a copper guy through and through, ex-VP of exploration for Freeport, really loves this project and is very excited about its potential to be in and of itself a big company maker. So anyway, and in Kazakhstan, what excites you about what we have going there?
Well, we have two. We have that really excite me, Pribezhny. That's we've signed a letter of intent and moving forward with a deal with Rio Tinto. On that one, that's a copper porphyry system with a very exciting oxide deposit sitting on top of it with a standalone IRR of 51 or 53%. Very exciting. It has a scoping study on it. So right. That one, you know, we just started IG Asia 2 years ago with seed money from myself, from finances from the earlier discoveries. And within that 2 year period, we've got this exciting portfolio. And then you add Brezhny to it, and now you have a mid-tier. You know, it's not an early stage exploration project. It's got as a scoping study from Rio Tinto. So that one's extremely exciting to us. We'll be starting on work on that early next year. And then we also have the Aral Sea project, which is our lithium brine projects, a number of them. You know, we have Steve Prominence is a board member, and Steve's very excited by our Aral Sea project because in his view, it's one of the few places on Earth where you have a really regional play, something that could potentially equal that in Argentina and Bolivia with very large targets. We use I won't go into too much detail here, but we use some internal technologies that we've developed that enable us to identify these systems very rapidly. And we've been applying that in Kazakhstan. And we've come up with a number of targets, and we've staked several of those already. And work begins on that next week. So we're very excited by it. So those are really the three big projects we currently have in our portfolio. We have several other gold projects. I'm looking at rare earths as well, both in Mongolia and in Kazakhstan. And we're looking for lithium brine systems in Mongolia as well, using our new technology.
Well, the exciting thing about that, Tom, is that these are all critical materials for the energy transition. And it's a great opportunity for us to be involved in these at this moment in history, right? So
yeah, and you know, I'll make another point. A lot of people are jumping into the lithium space. You know, I actually have been looking at lithium since 2009. I first identified a target in Russia because that's where I was at the time, in what's called the Angara-Linsky Basin. It's the largest salt basin on Earth. It's a subterranean basin. So it's not a playa sitting on the surface. And this is a type of system that will become increasingly important in lithium production in the coming decades are these subterranean basins. They're not as easy to spot, so they'll be a little slower to come online. But I identified that and I tried to pick it up for 6, 7 years, and the authorities wouldn't let me have any of it. Finally, I went to the minister of Rosnedra minister and told him what I was looking for. He basically said, "Thank you, I'll get out." And then just read like 3 months ago now, they put out a press release that they're going to start producing lithium in that target. So it's not my first run at lithium. I've been interested in lithium for a very long time. It's just we had an asset in California that we were able to acquire and vend in that space. And then things have just continued to develop along those lines.
Right.
So we're definitely in lithium.
Especially with your discovery of this new application of technology that is allowing us to review large swaths of areas very quickly and pick up the best ones.
It's critical.
So, Rob, did you want to ask any specific questions at this time? Just take a little pause to see.
Yeah, I have questions regarding the Rio Tinto project that was acquired by IG. If you go into a little more detail, because I know that there is it's less risky because of the work that Rio has done to it previous to it or acquiring it. Can you go into a little bit more detail on how that works, what they did, why, if it was something that was this nice, why would they get rid of it? Those are the simple questions people would ask, right?
Yeah, I don't want to say anything negative about our friends over at Rio Tinto.
No.
But they're a major, and majors have a gate that's very high for deposits that they're willing to put online. Basically, they're looking for that upper 10% in size and grade. So, and they tend to very early make decisions. Again, I'm not giving anybody a hard time because I like them. Please, hand me. But there's an old saying in exploration: you could just stand behind a major and be a billionaire. Because what they tend to do is majors will drop things very early if they think that it isn't, in the top 10% size and grade in the world. With porphyry systems especially, that tends to be short-sighted. And I know geologists that work for majors would agree with me and say amen, actually. Because porphyry systems tend to grow over time. They're extremely large systems, and as a result, it takes a commitment of years to drill them out and work them up properly. So, often majors are run by non-geologists, usually not explorationists, and they're fairly dogmatic when it comes to what they're willing to continue with. So their gates are early, their gates are high. They often will drop a project, sometimes even reacquire it later when the exploration group that they dropped it to has proven it up. What makes Pobrežny so exciting to me is, first, you have a very valuable economic deposit already based on the scoping study that was completed by both them, and we did one internally as well. But it also has a lot of what I call meat on the bone, which is there are 3 or 4 other prospects in there that they never really got to, certainly didn't drill them. Very compelling geophysics on those targets, which they did run. But again, it requires an explorationist to see potential. If decisions are being made by people, and God bless them, attorneys and accountants, they don't have the background to see the upside potential often. And they have to make decisions based on their internal economics, and often they make those conclusions very early. So that's why I'm excited. I think they've dropped us something that at the end of the day, maybe it's not the largest, top 10 in the world, but there's an awful lot of room between the top 10 largest deposits on Earth and the ones that will make you extremely wealthy. So I'm happy to play in that space, call it mid-tier if you wish. But I will say another thing is when Malmish, it was originally a joint venture between IG and Freeport, and they backed out of that early, and it became a top 10% ore body. I think it's already up to 2.1 billion ton ore body, copper gold system running 0.48 combined. So, we've had experience with this before where they decided to leave, we continued, and we ended up with exactly what they were looking for. But even if you don't hit that top 10%, there's still a lot of value there, especially when it's already been shown in a scoping that it's highly economic.
Well, and
so
and
we'll
Tom,
work the.
sorry, and you,
Go ahead.
Tom, won a couple of discovery medals for that for that project as well as others. You are definitely an amazing explorationist. I can attest to the 10 years we've been working together. The other thing that I
Has it been that long?
I think so.
10 years?
Well, 10 years since we first were looking at stuff together.
Okay.
How's that? Okay. But anyway, the thing I like about it as well is that the infrastructure around that project is top tier. There's a smelter very close by for sulfuric acid. So all the inputs
Absolutely.
are going to be, it's going to be a very low cost operation. And so very excited about that. Does that answer your question, Rob?
Yeah, that does. That, I think for investors, it'll help them get to the bottom, and that way they can understand. It's not too technical. Thank you for not being more technical. I appreciate that.
Pleasure. But there's one other thing you keyed on there, Steph, that made me think of this. One of the keys to being successful in this business, and probably most businesses, is taking negatives and turning them into positives. I tell my team this all the time. One of the negatives at Prevezhny is a massive amount of domestic quality water that people are looking at it as a negative, but that water can be used to green that entire area. Kazakhstan has a robust industry in food production, but that area up there is too dry for it. So the ideas we're working on now, one of them is to use that in agriculture, joint venture with the Kazakh government, and turn that region into an agricultural center for Kazakhstan, and of course for sales onward to China as well. So we're always looking for the more you can do that, turn negatives into positives, the more likely you will be successful. So that's one of the things I'm working on right now, which you reminded me of.
Well, you always have been able to take any opportunity and turn it in any situation, shall I say, and really make it an opportunity, Tom. I've seen you do that. Yeah, so absolutely.
Knock on wood.
And I don't know if people caught that, but our partners in this project are the Kazakh government. So they're a 25% partner and we're 75%. So that's a very positive for us generally. And a huge pat on the back for our team that Rio Tinto would want us to take this project forward. Rob?
Agreed. Yeah, we've worked with them in the past with myself and
yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah, sorry. Rob, did you?
She's paused.
What's that, Rob? Did we lose you for a second?
It looked like you paused for a second there.
Oh, okay. Well, I mean, one of the things that I wouldn't mind hearing from Tom, just is, what's your sort of essential philosophy? We've talked about it a little bit, and why is IG a distinguished from other exploration teams? What distinguishes us from other teams out there?
Well, as I was telling a cab driver about a month ago, who was asking me for stock tips in this space, I said, only invest in companies that are successful. There's a lot of exploration groups out there that have been doing it a long time and really can't point to success. We've had a a number of successes, 4 of them actually, since IG came into existence right around 2010. So that's one thing that sets the company aside. But the reason for those successes are really the team mostly, and directing a team into the right place to make a discovery. You know, I worked for a company a while back. I won't mention who it was, but they had an excellent geologic staff, truly amazing staff. But they were directed into places where minerals didn't exist. I mean, you can do the best geology on Earth, but if you're looking where there isn't any metal, you know, the last I heard, the price of pyrite's pretty low. So you have to direct your team into the right area to start with. That's kind of my job, Rich's job, Steve's job. And then you have to have the team that can find it if it's there. And I've said for years, when we talk with JV partners or government individuals, if it's there, we will find it. And those are big words, but I truly believe them, because we have the team that knows what they're looking for, has significant experience, has made discoveries, and if it's there, we'll find it. And that's something I can stand by. I say it whenever asked. It has to be there, and that's where, you know, Rich, myself, and Steve come in mostly to play, and then the team, along with me, take it from there. But that's really, the team is what sets us aside. Plus, you know, we're not risk averse. You know, we're not crazy, but we're not so concerned about taking that initial step on a project based on limited data. That's the nature of exploration. You're always dealing with limited data. And many companies are too risk averse. They're afraid to go into a new country like Kazakhstan, where they haven't operated before. But if you know the metal's there, and you put a team that knows Kazakhstan, which we have there, then it makes sense to go in, because others are not. And with the recent changes in Kazakhstan, with their government, and certainly with the current geopolitical situation in Russia, it's an ideal time for Western companies, especially American-run companies, to be going into Kazakhstan. I won't go into detail because I don't want to say publicly some things, but certainly on the geopolitical front, it's the time to be going there. Similar is true in Mongolia. Mongolia, when I was there, you know, they had an excellent law. They went the other way. China came in heavy. Now, you know, they're moving away from that, and they're actively trying to get Western companies to come back. They've amended their laws back to the way they were. And again, it's important to not be so risk averse that you miss the first step opportunity. If you beat the competition to an area, get established, grab those things like Prebrezhny that are hanging out there, that low hanging fruit, and establish yourself both with government and with local companies and communities, you're way ahead of the competition. You know, most discoveries aren't made by majors. Majors have been in Kazakhstan for a while, but they don't make the discoveries because, again, they have these very high thresholds. It's almost always the juniors, explorers who make them. So if you can beat your competition there, you're halfway home.
Yes, that's excellent. So I think, just as maybe Rob, if you have any questions to add to this, but just what is on the horizon for the next few years in the development of IG Asia, and where do you see some real catalysts for value, and how you would like the future to unfold?
Well, first we continue with our copper gold systems, our lithium systems and exploration program. We've already picked up 3 assets in the lithium space, and we're moving to acquire additional. Porphyry coppers in Kazakhstan has been known for decades to be a good hunting ground. We'll continue to do recon and programs and speak with majors as as they decide which projects they wish to keep. There's some very beautiful assets out there we've got our eyes on, and we'll be applying for licenses on those. In Mongolia, we're going to continue again with TN5, but we'll also get heavier into the lithium space there. There are three types of lithium brine systems. There's the salt playa system, which is the very early stuff. You can see it from satellites. Anybody can go out and stake them, and they do. Whether or not they're geologists, they're out staking these things, especially in the Western US. And then there's what I call sleepers. Sleepers are brine systems that are hard to see, and there's various reasons for that. One of them is alluvial fans. Some of these systems are covered by alluvial fans that are huge in scale, tens of kilometers across. But using our technology, we can see along the margins of those and see that the playas are not only below them, but seem to have lithium in them as well. So we're moving to make acquisitions on sleeper systems. And then the third are what I call petroleum basin related lithium brine systems. And those are similar to the Angora-Linsky that I was trying to acquire in 2008. So we're going to continue, especially looking for sleeper systems in Mongolia. We've identified two, but we're going to continue on that vein. So that's in the short term anyway, where we're heading. And then I'd like to break into rare earths. There's a number of rare earth systems in Northeast Kazakhstan that are on my radar. We're looking in there to see what the ownership is, land status situation, and potential opportunities. And there's also the ability to apply our technology looking for lithium rock systems. So we're starting to do that as well now. So rare earths and lithium, and number one right now, because of TN5 and Pobreznye, is our copper systems.
All right. And in terms of, go ahead, Rob.
On the TN5 aspect, because I know you're really excited about it, you can see your excitement in your face when you talk about it, which is great. How soon do you think you're going to be able to, you had stated that you want to go out and you want to start drilling there to try and identify what's going on. How far? I hate timelines, I really do, but in your mind, what are you thinking? Do you think it'll be the beginning of next year? Do you think it'll be first, second quarter next year? You'll start drilling, something like that?
Either Q4 or Q1 next year. Q4 this year or Q1 next year. We'll drill that in the winter. We'll be core drilling it, so it's not as difficult in the Gobi as RC. I've done RC in the winter in the Gobi, and it's very difficult. Core drilling, though, isn't. And we have drillers that come out of the Far East that are used to -40 winters in drilling. So our drill team doesn't have a problem with winter drilling at all. So we'll be drilling it this winter. As soon as we get those IP results, we have 3D inversion of both the IP and the mag. We'll take a look at that, look under that sand cover, taking into account what we've found on surface, and then start drilling that this winter.
So in your expertise, when you find the percentages of copper and gold that were on the surface that you discovered, and then has been reestablished by the team that went out there after IG acquired the property, on your experience, when you have something like that's high grade at the surface, what does it look like when you start drilling? If it's that high grade at the surface, because it's okay, we take it back to what retail or regular people who are not geologists feel. You go to Coloma, California, it used to be able in the 1800s, they go there and they would just pick nuggets out of the ground, out of the water, out of the river, the American River. It's not there anymore. So you got to dig, you got to figure out where it is. So you're able to find high grade copper and high grade gold on the surface. So does that usually equate to there's a large porphyry system under the ground, is what I'm going for?
Yeah, two things to say to that. First, in my experience, I've never run across numbers like that on the surface.
Okay.
So not even close. Second, yeah, I mean, especially with a porphyry system. Now, I've had experience with gold systems where you have very nice numbers on veins at surface, and you drill under those veins and they're gone because you're in the boiling zone or what, an area where the gold first came out, the rest has been eroded off. I've seen that in gold systems. In porphyry systems, these things are quite large. So I've never even seen anything, half as good as that at surface. And so this is somewhat unique to me. I mean, it was unique back when I first discovered it, and certainly when we followed up and hit those same numbers again. This is the best I've ever seen for a porphyry system at surface. There may be some guys that have seen something better, some old timers like me somewhere, maybe in Indonesia back in the day. But yeah, this is the best I've ever seen. I would be stunned if we were to drill under that and we don't hit a porphyry copper gold system, or a number of them. These things tend, Pacific Rim type system, they tend to, they come up and we call them reverse udders, where they'll, these apophyses come off a major lower lying intrusive, and each one of those will have what's called a cupola of mineralization associated with it. So they'll have a number of them spread out in a given area. This is what we had at Malmish. So it looks to me like it's a Pacific Rim type copper gold porphyry system. Should have a number of systems down there. The challenge in the early days is identifying those, smaller systems. When you add them all up, they're world-class ore bodies, but individually they can be a little bit more challenging to hit because they're separate from each other. So it's a matter of figuring out where each of those apophyses are and drilling those out. But you don't want to say it's absolutely going to be an ore body, but I would be amazed if it wasn't, because I've never seen numbers like that on the surface.
And I've been in this business for a long time, nowhere near your level as a geologist, but I've never heard anybody that has found that on the surface. So that's the reason why I asked, because there are people who are going, well, okay, so that's great on the surface. What does that mean under the ground? We don't know until we get down there, but generally speaking, it'd be shocking if it didn't continue.
It would be shocking, and if you can find it, take it. I mean, I've never seen it, so it's a good starting point for us. Put it that way.
Yeah. So it sounds like what we're near term, over the next 12, 18 months, we're going to have news on provisioning. We're going to have news on TN5. We're going to have news on the lithium exploration. And, which one of these will be the biggest company maker, we're not sure, but we feel pretty confident that there could be significant value in each one of these assets. And so our investors are exposed to all of those opportunities at the moment. And, I think it's very exciting. It's definitely.
Yeah, and without going into too much detail, we're also talking to some majors that are interested in doing things with us, that are aware of, that we know quite well and are aware of us for quite some time, which is also very exciting. Well, hopefully that'll come to fruition, and it'll be something that will excite the current shareholders, certainly. When you're talking on a video, it's hard to go into as much detail as you can one-on-one, because videos live forever, and you have to be careful what you say because you're in the middle of negotiations. So just to put it that way, we are talking with some majors, and it can be very exciting.
Great.
Of that.
So Rob, did you have any more comments or questions on your end?
No, I think Tom, you did a great job. I for investors to be able to pick into your mind, and when it's not so technical, understand what's going on, I think is very valuable. And to see the excitement that you have, I think is probably more valuable than the words you're saying, because you can't hide body language. So
That's true.
Well, thanks,
Yeah,
everyone.
well, I am excited.
Yeah, I'm excited too. So
So-
thanks everyone. That's it for today. We hope to do this again in the future. Thank you so much, Rob and Tom. Thank you.
Thanks,
thanks,
guys.
Stephanie. Thank you, Tom.